Okay. Well, my screen is frozen, but that's cool. Anyway, we're getting ready to go do this live at 9 o'clock. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, it's always interesting. Let me turn the volume down on this here. You mute this so I'm not getting the echo effect. All right, if you don't know, oh, my camera looks like it's a little off. Let's fix this for you guys. Now I gotta, oh, sorry guys. This should be done before I'm on. I don't know what's happening today. Oh, I see. I got the whole thing in frame. I shouldn't even mess with it. I see. Oh, we're gonna make all these adjustments before we go, because that's what we do. Gotta make sure everything is right. We got, sorry about that. Got more stuff showing in frame than I want. Still a little bit off, thanks to this lag. See how that looks. I want my kids in frame. That's what it is. Just so if you look and you're like, I'm doing a lot. This is my youngest kid when she was about 7. She's 24 now. That's my oldest. This is my youngest here. She she 8. That was what, last year? And it's still off. All right. I should have had this before I started. I'm bugging. I'll never have these problems. So all right. Thank y'all for bearing with me. And this here is my oldest holding my youngest when that is still, I got stuff in there I don't want in frame. Let me see if that is taken care of right quick. Gosh. If that doesn't do it, I guess that's just gonna be what it is. Just trying to make sure I got my kids in. I gotta get my kids in frame. You guys supporting me like this is more important than you'll ever realize. Even as we're getting ready to talk about some stuff that is not the bueno, I don't want. I still gotta bring it over some. This is. I'm bringing over a smidge. This is stuff going on right now is tragic as we're talking about this Trump situation. We're about to be at war. Actually, I can't say we're about to be at war. Last we spoke, it was a Cold War. It was a, I don't know, hot war, I guess. It's just all weird, where, let me move my iPad out off screen. Last time we spoke, it was about the war about to take off. I knew it was coming. I'm not psychic, but here's how Trump get down. Shows you the left hand, so you don't know what the right hand is doing. And then he does the magic trick. It wasn't really very difficult to see what was going to happen. That's why if you caught the last video I did, what you saw was me predicting that there was going to be a very small time frame before this war was initiated. And I laid out a bunch of reasons why he would make the monumental decision to go into war with Iran that he made. It's not easy for me to talk about. I don't agree with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to do with, I don't think we should be at war with Iran. It's nothing to the United States. We're there, but that's my perspective. This is a think tank. We look at other people's perspectives. We try and bring together different perspectives and draw unbiased, logical conclusions based on the evidence that's given. I like to use critical thinking, inductive reasoning, and deductive reasoning. The difference is inductive reasoning is when you take a look at what's happening, what's in front of you, and try to figure out what happened to get there, right? Like, boom. So my joint was off frame, right? My camera was off frame. So inductive reasoning would lead you to believe that I didn't check before I went live. And that's how inductive reasoning works. You look what's going on now and you work backwards to see how you got there. While deductive reasoning is completely the opposite. So with deductive reasoning, it's like you take the pieces of a puzzle and you put it together and you get the picture. So, like Sherlock Holmes was a master of deductive reasoning. He looked at all of the clues and he was able to figure out what the puzzle was. That's why they say he used deductive reasoning or deductive thinking. And the other thing I like to use is logical fallacies. So, a logical fallacy would, for instance, be somebody wants to be like, well, Trump is a mean jerk, so nothing he does is right. And so, because you don't like Trump, everything he does is wrong, regardless of whether the evidence proves that he was wrong or not. So, that's a logic fallacy because you're not looking at the evidence, you're looking at something that has nothing to do with what the evidence will dictate. Now, does Trump do anything right? He closed the borders. My co-host that's going to be on shortly likes to utilize that to point out something that he's done well. Now, if you don't like 99% of the stuff he did while he was in office, that's fine. Neither do I. Hop on the gravy train. We're not Trump fans here. But that doesn't mean that he hasn't done correct things, and he has done a lot right. Well, a lots of big statement. So let's not utilize a lot. Let's say he's done correct things, and you can't or you should not determine whether you feel that what he's doing now is right or wrong based on whether you like him or not. That's how the MAGA. Ooh, did I just use those interchangeably? That was a slip of the tongue. No, seriously though. That's how MAGA works, or how MAGA is thought to work. No matter what Trump did, they supported it. They would get behind the insane things. Like, let's take that big bad bill. That big bad bill is the worst thing that's ever been put in front of Congress in the history of America. Save, well, in the last 200 years, I would say more than that, maybe. In that bill, I've gone over and itemized. You can go to the .gov website where it lists it RAHR. I don't remember. I don't want to get into all of that now because we're here to talk about current events, even though that bill is in front of the Senate as we speak. And yes, if that bill, thank God the bill's not going to pass, but if that bill passed, it would cripple this country. He wants to extend tax cuts that were implemented during his first term from 2018 to 2020. He utilizes random thoughts that are across his mind, and then he repeats them over and over and over again. And here's how that works, right? Well, let me make sure my co-host is not trying to come in yet, because I don't want to leave him out in the cold. So here's how that works. The subconscious mind will believe anything it receives. If you can tell the subconscious mind something, then you believe it. Your conscious mind is a filter that protects the subconscious mind. So here's the subconscious mind, and if the subconscious mind receives it, you're going to believe it. Conscious mind's a wall. It's a filter. It tries to protect you from receiving false information. But you can only filter out so much. That's why advertisements work. And you live in a world where there's an advertisement everywhere you look. If you're walking down the street, you'll see 50 advertisements, 100 advertisements. You turn on your TV, you turn on your phone, there's ads popping up everywhere. You receive an innuation, momentous amount of advertisements. All of it's not going to be filtered out by the conscious mind. Now, a way to trick the conscious mind and get to the subconscious is repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning works because the subconscious mind also never forgets anything. It believes everything that is told and never forgets anything. So what Donald Trump does is repeats the same lies over and over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually you believe it. I'll give the strongest possible example of said lies being repeated. He had the greatest economy in the history of this country the last time he was in office. The last time he was in office, COVID happened. It was the beginning of COVID. He could not possibly have left a great economy when half the country was shut down. So many people believe he had a great economy based off of the fact that he just keeps saying that it was a great economy. And I don't understand how they don't remember COVID, but I do understand the psychological mechanisms. He repeats it over and over again, and it gets past the conscious mind, and it seeps into the subconscious. And once the subconscious hears it, it's going to believe it. Here's a way that you've heard it being used in spiritual means, the exact same technique, skills, mechanisms, and you can be assured that it actually works. That is called affirmations. So you wake up in the morning, you give yourself daily affirmations. It's the same psychological method being used, right? So you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over to yourself. Eventually, the subconscious mind is going to pick it up and believe it. And once the subconscious mind believes it, the conscious mind, I'm giving psychology lessons, the conscious mind will begin to display in real life what the subconscious mind believes. So I told myself over and over and over and over and over again that I'm going to be a YouTuber and it's going to be my main source of income before the year is over. I started this channel in February. And thanks to God, because you got to give credit to God, whether you're a Christian, Muslim. I guess you don't. Some people don't believe in God. I do. So that's irrelevant. You build up these beliefs in your subconscious, and your conscious mind portrays it. So what did telling myself that over and over and over again do? Have me sitting here talking to y'all right now, waiting on my guests to get on, while I have a team working on my advertisement, which is why I'm a half hour early. Working diligently week after week. I'm researching topics. I'm researching everything I got to do. And the reason I'm doing it is because I believe that this is going to be my path. I keep telling myself that, and it's seeped into my subconscious. Trump uses something similar. It's almost like hypnosis. So the way hypnosis works is you put the conscious mind to sleep while the subconscious mind survives, while the subconscious mind remains awoke, rather, right? So if the subconscious mind is awoke, now you're talking directly to the subconscious mind. That's why people do things under hypnosis they won't normally do if they were not in that condition, in that state. So you can tell the subconscious mind, go hop around like a monkey. And the person will hop around like a monkey and may not even remember it in their conscious waking moments. Subconscious mind won't forget. Digress. So the techniques I'm explaining to you that Trump uses are salesman strategies. And he's probably the best strategist in the world when it comes to salesmen. He's been doing it forever. He's great at it. Terrible businessman. Well, business is about making money. And Donald Trump makes money. His strategy is not to pay his employees And his technique works because it got him to be in the most powerful seat in the world and a billionaire. He even used Elon Musk to climb the ladder. After he was done with Musk, he discarded him, which is why Musk lashed out. He was lashing out because he was discarded. And then he realized after he calmed down, that wasn't the way to go, but it was too late. Now he looked like a fool. And so when Trump stomped on him and trampled on him, he looked like the bad guy. And he couldn't go against the most powerful man in the world, even though he had more money. He already placed him. Trump used him like he uses everybody else and then discarded him. Like he does people building his houses. Like he does with Americans right now. Like he did with the Republican Party before he went into this war in Iran. He utilized them to place this big bad bill. It didn't go as fast as he wanted. This war in Iran started. I don't know what's going to happen from here. We're going to discuss it with a MAGA representative, a district leader in the bluest county in the country, Bronx, New York, who is actually working diligently to flip that county. And I'm going to stop to see the time to see how long before my guest arrives. Give me a moment. Full disclosure, even though I'm representing the opposite party, and Dion does in fact represent MAGA, I should inform you that he is a black MAGA man, super intelligent dude, close friends. He, somebody just joined the chat. Let's make sure everybody feels welcome. Thank you, Emily, for joining. Me and Dion are very close friends. We do not agree politically. It'll be quite evident as the night moves on in our hour. He has not always supported Donald Trump. He didn't support Trump till the second term. But again, the lies being repeated over and over and over again are able to seep through. Intelligence level doesn't matter. If you don't have a conscious shield of it, if your conscience isn't protecting you, if you're not consciously filtering the information, it's going to seep through and you're going to believe it. Let's take R.F. Kennedy. He's not as brilliant as Trump is when it comes to being able to utilize sales tactics and strategies. He's nowhere near. But he does believe what he's saying. And it's evident because for the last 3 months, I've been saying on this show exactly what would happen when he got in charge of the medical field. He is an anti-vaxxer. He believes vaccines are the cause of autism in this country. And that's it. Nothing is going to change his mind. And he came in saying, oh, he's going to do research. He's going to find facts. People believing Trump believed him. And I'm like, he's been saying the same thing for 40 years. He's not going to come in, or 30 years, or whatever it is. He's not going to come in and say anything different. You can't believe he's really going to have scientific research. Like, that sounds crazy. Who would believe that? People that have already had their mind brought in is going to believe that. So, lo and behold, 3 months later, he fires the advisory chamber for the CDC. And after they're gone, he replaces them with a bunch of anti-vaxxers. Anybody who didn't see this coming, I don't feel bad for them. But some of the things that he's getting rid of, we've spoken about on previous episodes. Like, so Dion was very adamant about the fact that what they're giving hepatitis B shots to babies. Okay, hepatitis B is not something that you can catch in the air. Maybe that's not a vaccination that we need. So the Hep B shot might be a bad idea. But what is it called? It's not coming to me. The one that's, oh man, it's not coming to me. There's a bunch of different shots that they give, and some of them are very, 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 very necessary. I mean, do I believe in the flu shot and I mean, no. Some shots you can probably avoid. I see Radion. Thanks for joining. As we wait on Dion to come and join us. But the same token, there are shots we need. I'm glad I don't have to worry about mumps, measles. I'm very glad that I don't have to worry about chicken pox. So Kennedy coming in and defunding the CDC's vaccinations is incredibly bad. When you look at the big bad bill, one of the worst things that's in there is what's happening in Medicaid. Social Security is bad enough. I mean, my parents are no longer here, but they were retired city workers and they needed their Social Security. Defunding Social Security is horrible. But Medicaid? Let's talk about what's in that big bad bill. Medicaid funds rural areas heavier than even the blue cities. And Dion has joined us. Welcome, Dion.
Yeah, I repositioned my apartments in a certain way. And I just want to make sure, do you hear my neighbor's Spanish music? Do you hear my AC that we just slapped into the window? Do you hear any of this audio?
No,
Okay, I guess this must be floating around. Very good. Okay, cool. And the
I
blacktop.
had some issues when I was setting up too. I had to readjust my camera. I guess I bumped in my computer table when I had some issues too. We only got about 5 minutes before we get started.
Yeah, I realized that I shouldn't be coming in too early because you were doing a monologue situation, and I should come in like very close to 9 o'clock, and that way prayers my notes. So I wasn't sure. Then I saw your text just now. I was like, oh wow, okay.
I'm just talking because there's people coming in, like there's 1,500 people here right now. And for them to just be sitting there with nothing going on doesn't sound like the greatest idea. So I speak about what's going on. And I'm actually waiting for you. We don't want to dive too deeply into it before the 9 o'clock because we want to let everybody come in. Thank you, everybody, for coming once again. But actually, I got to put my kid to bed. I'm glad you're here. Would you mind giving me a 2 minute monologue while I get my kid into bed?
Sure, I have a lot to say about nothing, and I know it all. Well,
Thank you for coming, Honorable Dion Powell. I'll be right back.
hey, family, how are you? I'm 78th Assembly District Leader Leon Powell, filling in for Leo. And I went to the City College of New York, the poor man's Harvard, as it were, and the first student government in America as a former vice president myself. In addition to that, I also was a product of the first film department in America, Media Communications Arts, Shepherd Hall, you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, that's where I get some of these nuances of how to do things in front of and behind the camera, like my colleague Leo here. And finally, I get to use my degree somewhat for what it's for. Because the saying is 70% of people don't use their degrees for what it's for. And being in the political realm, I'm happy to come full circle to impart my knowledge, wisdom, understanding, resources, and information to all you wonderful people there that support us. And hopefully we'll take our game to the next level. I was talking to some colleagues in my WhatsApp group that since Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire are going, the people like us who are the media are going to be hopefully on the uprise. So look out, Candace Owens. More people of color coming up there, but you're doing great work as well. agree, disagree, and whatever that case may be. And shout out to her especially for Blexits, because Blexit, I used to be assistant state director of the New York chapter of Blexit, Black Exit. We were changing the narrative for African Americans. And now, to my understanding, Blexit has chapters on 16 HBCU campuses, which I think is great because sometimes, even on this side, you see other African Americans, Black folks, it's like, I'm not sure they can navigate the hood like I can in some other areas. But this is a part of the culture I'm proud of that they're doing because sometimes on this side, you can see that, you know, some of the stereotypes you have of an Uncle Tom or a sellout or being whitewashed can be seen as a happy, amongst the white people, as it were. But Lex is doing his thing. Shout out to school choice, criminal justice, the four pillars. And yeah, we're just going to keep doing the work. Um, as some of you may or may not know, I'll be going to Ghana. Shout out to Ghana in a few days, and I'll be taping these episodes out there. So if you're interested in going to Africa, I encourage you highly to, because that's a part of our culture that a lot of our foundational Black America, American descendants of slavery, Adolf, shout out to them, are general people who check up that box, Black/African American from diaspora, as it were, should go to Africa at some point in their life if they're so pro-Black and I'm proud and all this stuff. You know what I mean? Red, black, and green. You know what I mean? So shout out to these colors right here. Hey, Leo's back.
Thank you for that. I was just for those of y'all who don't know, I am a single father of an
Yay.
8-year-old, and I start this, and it's about her bedtime. So I have to take a quick run and get her to bed. She still wants me to sing her to sleep.
Oh, wow. You do that? What songs do you sing?
She likes "Rockin' My Baby." I
What?
got my own special version, and no, I'm not doing it. I changed the wording a little bit. Because mom's not there, so that part's not there. She doesn't like the falling out of the tree and dying part, so we don't do that. Down will come baby, cradle and all sounds
Oh,
nightmarish.
you do
She
that.
doesn't
That's
like that.
interesting.
I'm sorry.
I can't believe we're still doing that. That's so cute and genuine that these other kids you see running around in the hood, that's very good. And another factoid family that children thrive in two types of household, dual parents and single fathers. A lot of people don't know that. And I always give Leo a shout out. And it's June, so we got the Father's Day going. And the event I started in my community here in the Bronx was Happy Single Father's Day, because some people's like, I'm the mother and the father, but then again, the fathers get overlooked and overshadowed and just get a tie and boss. And some people don't know their father. Some people say they have God the Father as their father. But still, shout out to single fathers like Leo. So we have 8 minutes. Hopefully, people start to trickle in. I have a new setup here in my apartment that you can't see, with the AC over there blasting, my Latino neighbors over there blasting their music. But good thing this Zoom is filtering out all that stuff. Now, for some reason, I see my Wi-Fi is a little bit low, but back to you, Skip. As I
You said we have 8 minutes, but it's actually 9 o'clock right now, so I'm ready to jump
what
in as
is
we
this?
speak.
Yeah.
Yes, it's time. Let's get into this. Hold on, give me 1 second because I just want to be able to monitor anything going on in the chat. Welcome to the Think Tank, where we use critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and just a pinch of common sense to draw unbiased, logical conclusions. Today, I'm back once again with my co-host for our Sunday meetups, the
Live.
Honorable Dion Powell.
That's me.
Would you like to introduce yourself quickly for those that don't know you?
Once again, if you haven't seen that movie Blazing Saddles, I not even icing the whole thing, but there's a scene that said, Dion, you gotta love, and it said, excuse me while I whip this out. Happy Pride Month, family. So today I'm going to be identifying as a woman for Trump. How you doing? Back to you,
Oh
Skip.
my
I'm
God.
a district leader. I'm a consultant. I'm too nervous and scared to go back on the comedic stage and be a stand-up comic, but that's my dream too. But this is how I use the performing arts dream that had been deferred by being like a Bill Maher from Savvy in the political realm, or one of these talking heads on the Communist News Network or the MSDNCs, and imparting it out there in a satirical fashion. But shout out to Jonathan Swift, which said, "Let them eat their babies." Go ahead,
All
woman,
right.
woman, woman.
Now that we've gotten the comical relief out of the way, we have some very, very, very serious things to discuss. America is now at war. And the way we got here has never been done before quite like this. Congress are the only ones that can declare war. The president can move troops, which is how we got into Vietnam and Korea, but only Congress can declare war. And Congress was in the middle of attempting to make sure that laws were in place to block Donald Trump from being able to execute war actions without going through Congress. And as soon as they did that, he said, "Oh, wait, time out. No, we're going to give him 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we're going to decide what we're going to do. Give me 2 weeks. This is time for them to negotiate. That's why I'm giving them 2 weeks, so they can negotiate." And lulling everybody to sleep, the very first thing he does is 2 days later, bombs Iran. Wow, didn't see that coming. Oh, wait, we said that before it happened. Matter of fact, I don't know if you remember, Dion, but the reason we have our lives on Sundays is because he's so busy over the weekend. We got to catch up with all the stuff he does. He likes to do a lot on weekends. That's how the lives on Sunday began.
And we're not daily like all those other people, but yes, we'll get there.
We're not who?
We're not daily like those other talking heads, but we'll get there. Like breaking news, but we're building up to that, leaving people wanting more.
I would like to see that before the summer's over.
Okay.
So right now, let's talk about it. Laparnas says Putin won't allow Trump. Laparnas was one of Trump's party members, right? Well, Trump's party members. He's part of sitting on his cabinet. Said Putin won't allow Trump to attack Iran because Iran has scientists there. They and that's how they move through sanctions. Putin didn't want Iran attacked, and he said that Putin wouldn't let him do it. Okay, I guess that's not so. What do you think about this cabinet member who thought Putin was blocking Trump? Before we get into the more serious attack phase of this conversation.
You're talking about Parsons?
Is that his name? I'm saying it wrong?
Lev Parnas? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Well, the thing about it is that from my research, on this subject matter, this is a former employee of Trump. So we all know how it goes down when you're a former employee of Trump and you part ways with Trump. Not such a good way. So some of this I see as a disgruntled former employee. Some of it would be interesting if it was true and Trump was communicating with Putin to patch things up with the Ukraine for this situation. But again, I'm part of the right side of the family that's on the America First mindset. And
what's America First? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump have two different ideologies on what America First actually is.
Right.
So what's America First to you?
Well, to me, the concept is very simple. Like the migrant situation, with African Americans, Black Americans, we should be put first before those people, and they should work their turn. That's like an America First situation. Another America First situation is like during the first Trump administration, where he was promoting global peace in some fashion. Now, mind you, with this war, now that they've attacked Iran, that broke that whole argument I was professing, and so many others that are disappointed in the president's move. But yes, defunding a lot of countries in this world that we support financially and also through our military as well for protection. And if you remember the first administration when Trump was at Germany, he was like, "Yeah, why are we still paying for this?" And he's like, He's like, "I think it's very inappropriate that we're putting in 100% of the money, the most of the liability, you guys not kicking in NATO, blah, blah." I think, yes, that's my President Trump, making sure they pay their fair share. But again, America First means not Israel first, America first. Israel is a big boy, has a right to exist, the right to defend itself. So since it's a big boy, do that over there, we'll be over here, And things get too crazy, maybe we'll come over there. But Israel, you're a big boy, you have weapons, you're doing these wonderful things. You went into Iran, finished the job, and we'll just be over here. And that's the way I see it.
So America First to you is that we shouldn't be over there. We should be dealing with our own. I have a question. So the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was sidelined after testifying that Iran is not capable of nuclear weapons.
Months ago.
So do you think that things have changed?
Of course.
No, months ago. No. That was like 2 weeks before. That was 2 weeks before Trump bombed Iran. It was 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then Trump was like, nah, they're capable of it. Tulsi Gabbard said no. Trump came out and said yes. Why is it that Trump and the director of national security, who's responsible for having and knowing this information, have different information? Or Trump says that they have different information.
Well, again, we know how the president gets down, and he's willing to bulldoze his will, way, and opinion forward. Now, Tulsi, she has a very strong background as a veteran, and being a former Congress member to be able to delay these things. But again, you got to look at the Israel lobby and influence over the president, and that linkage from Netanyahu to do these things. And then you have to look at a historical perspective. I'm big on that. For example, after 9/11 happened. One of the people in my backdrop at City College and in the Bronx is Colin Powell, General Powell, and my last name is Powell. He went over there to the UN and beyond to convince them that yes, Iraq does have weapons of mass destruction. Fast forward, we find out maybe that's not really true. We left some of our weaponry there when Saddam was installed and some other stuff. The same mistakes I think Tulsi, as a veteran coming from that era, actually realized we've made, and she probably is providing information based on that to not mislead the American people. Now, again, the president of the United States being the commander in chief and having to get the American people behind him, I see him as doing that kind of play. And that's where things have happened. Now, Tulsi, being Tulsi, if she feels strong about this, then she probably will make a statement and resign because she's built like that. Kennedy, too. Kennedy, a lot of people are like, oh, Trump and Kennedy's a tool. No. Kennedy's built the same. If Trump goes too far,
let's not go too far into that right now. Let's stick with what's happening, because this is
okay.
We're at war, so let's deal with this. This is serious.
No, we're not.
Okay, so your thinking is that Tulsi did not have accurate information.
No.
The director of security, the director
said that Tulsi, being a veteran, knowing the historical military mistakes and propaganda from the Bush era with Operation Desert Shield, I think it was called, that she probably has the information she needs to make her assessment and not just go to the Colin Powell route. Where
Trump has an established history of doing these things. Wasn't somebody testifying in front of Congress that
was Tulsi?
We would something previous that happened like 2 months ago, because he does this all the time. That what was it? Who was it? Rubio? I mean, he has a habit. He's established habit of contradicting his people that are supposed to be. But this is not that none of it is, not that all of it isn't serious, but we're at war. There's no intelligence for Iran to have had nuclear weapons, even though the war started, right? I mean, Iran, excuse me, talking about Iraq. Iran bombed a hospital. Israel strikes back and bombs 3. Like they're bombing hospitals. I mean, that's not new for Israel. Israel's bombing Gaza hospitals too. Oh, they got troops underneath and hiding, and they was blocking kids from getting food. Israel is, oh gosh, I should not say this on YouTube. I might get demonetized. The leader of Israel is a war criminal. And Trump went on supporting an open attack for no reason, even though his own intelligence said there was no nuclear weapon capability available in the immediate future for Iran. They can't do it. Why? Why did he really want to strike? What was his purpose in lying and saying he's going to wait 2 weeks, ignoring people saying that they didn't have nuclear weapons? What's really happening?
Well, in my opinion, again, you got to preface it as such. Number one, we know what we're dealing with Israel. And again, it made no sense to me as American first for us to do anything but just let Israel be Israel. Let Israel be at war with Iran and the surrounding countries. They have the tools they need. Now, one of my colleagues brought something up that Israel cannot sustain its military because they don't have enough troops to defend.
Actually, it's what you said that Netanyahu said he could not go to war with Iran unless America fought. He said they need America. So he went in there knowing that America was going to back him up.
Right, and that's the problem. He's very entitled, like the other Zelensky character over there in Ukraine. And that's pretty much it. Like they're trying to draft, I'm not sure if they passed it. Oh, excuse me. Where they're trying to get that ultra orthodox Jewish community who don't fight in battles. They're trying to draft them into the military. Now, Israel has a lot of armaments and capabilities, but they don't have the manpower physically
Russia's sending
like them.
criminals. Russia's opening up the yo. You had a Russian. I don't know what he was. He was a criminal. Eat one of his own comrades and sustain himself off of at the front lines, eating his comrade for days.
I don't know
Like,
about that.
do I need to pull it up?
Sure. Like I whipped this out. Ah, no diddy.
Oh man.
This is
All
my
right, let
first
me
time
see if
hearing this, Leo, so I don't, that wasn't on the list.
I wasn't. It wasn't on the list, but I'm not putting everything on the list. But
Well, so my thoughts again, as you bring that up, is that again, Israel, it was the aggressor in the situation. It suspects all these wonderful things. Because remember, Israel has intelligence on par, if not better than ours. They just don't have the bodies, as they say, to fight these kind of things, but they have the weaponry. And one thing I've heard about Trump too on my side is that Trump values American life, so he's not going to send any troops. He's just going to use military uh, weaponry and systems for this kind of thing. Yeah, because Trump doesn't have any experience, know-how of these kind of military situations. That's why I said on previous episodes, this is one of his Achilles heels, which is military operations, as opposed to all the other stuff that he could just, kind of roll with the punches, learn as he goes, do it his way. But this way, it's very, very, I think, complex for him with his moral.
Russian soldier kills eats comrade in twisted attempt to
I can't
survive
see that.
Ukraine war.
I can't see that screen, Leo.
You can't see it.
No. I mean, I can take a
Let's
screenshot of what I'm looking at. I mean, you have three windows open. You have your Gmail open. I think you have a Microsoft Word document open. You have a black screen open on the left that
hold on.
has
Let me
hashtags
cancel
on
that
it.
and try again. I don't know what just happened. Oh, maybe. Okay, I'm probably sharing the wrong screen. Maybe let's try that again. Okay. Russian soldier kills eats comrade in twisted attempt to survive Ukraine war. A Russian soldier in the front lines of Ukraine murdered his comrade and ate the corpse to survive the grim wartime conditions, only to end up dying anyway, Kiev's military intelligence reported. That's all we need. This is what's happening at the front line. Russia's not doing good. That's aside. That's aside. Don't believe the propaganda that Russia's over there just destroying them. It's a war.
Well, then one
Even
thing,
though Putin did mention that that all of Ukraine belongs to him. That's probably in the notes for later.
well, let's all be real here. Like I said in my WhatsApp group now, we are the media. Leo and I are the media. And our responsibility is to give you the facts from alternative sources. I do very well on Microsoft Bing. And one thing I will attest to is that our American media is pure propaganda. It's not getting us the information we need. And that right there says to me, it's very sensationalized. It's slanting us against Russia, whatever the case is. But we have to do our own independent research outside of the dependencies of these platforms. Case in point, Telegram groups, or Signal groups, WhatsApp, internationally getting those on the ground things. You may have a friend, college, or even somebody in your own college students that may have a family relative in Europe that's there, or connection to an alternate media source. So some of these things about Iran itself, like we'll talk about later, I'm kind of conflicted with in the sense that you have world leaders that are who hate Trump's guts that say, you know what, this was a good idea, invading Iran.
Yeah, we are going to dig into that in a moment, but because it's very interesting. But when Israel attacked Iran, the United States was already in like its fifth round of peace talks with Iran about these nuclear weapons. In fact, 2 days before we were supposed to continue those peace talks, last Sunday, Iran struck the Thursday before. There was the next round of peace talks due 2 days prior to Israel strikes. Israel destroyed peace talks that were ongoing about nuclear weapons when they bombed them for no reason. So why didn't Trump say, wait, what are you doing? You can't just bomb people randomly? Especially after what happened. I mean, he backed him with the Houthis. He backed him with Gaza. Let's clean Gaza out. I want to put the hotels here. Now Iran. Why? Why is it that why Iran? Iran controls. Do you know how much this has affected America already? Do you know the price of beef skyrocketed based on this?
I wasn't aware.
So I heard a report about it yesterday, right? I'm hearing it on my way to a barbecue. Now I'm a good guest. I'm saying you don't go to a barbecue empty-handed. So I stop and I pick up a pack of hamburgers, 28 hamburgers in this pack. It costs more than $30 for those 28 hamburgers. Raw, uncooked hamburgers cost more than $1 per quarter pound because of this. It's already having real world effects here. Why? Like, it's not like we was going through enough with inflation, even though Trump keeps talking about prices is down. That's not what my pocketbook says. I don't got a pocketbook, but you get my point. I'm a man. I got my wallet says
Happy
when I walk up
Pride.
into when I walk up into the grocery store, I'm looking at these numbers and this what he's saying is crazy. Yeah, why is he trying to drag? Why is he? First thing he said he's going to do, prices will come down day one. Prices have skyrocketed on everything. Why would he drag us into a war on top of this? What is his real reason for supporting the bombing of Iran while we were in the middle of peace talks? You said you don't support it as a MAGA person, right?
Israel. Again, as America first, not Israel first. Israel has a lot of leverage over this country, and we all should know how and why. So we're not going to really talk about that right now or here. But again, it goes to show you how much power and sway Israel have over our government and our president. And that's what America First people have a problem with. Israel should not be dictating our president to do anything and our government to do anything. And that's why that's a big problem.
But Trump was telling Iran to surrender, right? He was pulling out American troops, telling Iran to surrender, gave him 2 weeks, and then dropped the bomb. So this wasn't about Israel.
What was it about?
Again, I don't know, but again, he was pulling troops out of Israel. He was pulling troops out of the Middle East. Not troops, American citizens out of the Middle East, excuse me. He told Iran to surrender. He gave them 2 weeks, and 2 days later, he bombs them. Literally 2 weeks, and then 2 days later, he bombs them. Literally.
Well, there's a reason for that, Leo. Because as a veteran, you must appreciate the president as the commander-in-chief, making sure the world looks this way when it comes to military tactics and decision-making, and does that. That's why I understand from a bishop that was drafted to Nam. He's like, yes, Trump did the smart thing as his commander-in-chief. He lets the world know, hey, we're going to do this. When it comes to military stuff, shock and awe. Boom. That way, doesn't give the enemy's time to react and prepare. Makes sense. Now, do I agree with it? Again, no, because Israel should be doing the heavy lifting. But yes, that's the reason why he did that. And that's what I'm getting from my network.
That is not incorrect.
Okay.
That is not incorrect. If you're going to strike, you do it. You don't let everybody know your war plans. That's insanity. When Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, they didn't be like, all right, we coming. They flew in so you couldn't see them in the sun, the rising sun, blah, 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 blah. Everybody knows the history. You don't tell your enemies what you're going to do because then they can prepare and defend. But why was he doing it, right? I mean, he won't rule out using weapons of mass destruction. He's saying y'all might have nukes, so we're going to bomb, we're going to nuke you. He struck nuclear facilities that were not war machines. They weren't building weapons. He struck Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan.
So it looks like Tulsi, the national security director, was right. And the thing is, what's sad is, if she's right according to these reports, then that hurts her credibility to the president sidelines her, but it's just Trump being Trump. On the same token, back to Israel, who put the battery in our back or just told us to do it. And that's where a lot of people disagree. So again, this may affect the midterm elections. But on the same token,
May.
even though it's not on the agenda, but the DNC, they have problems. But we can't talk about that on this platform, I guess.
We could get to that. I don't mind hearing what those problems are, but right now I don't think nothing is a bigger problem than the fact that we're at war.
There's no official declaration of war to my knowledge. So, and that's
No,
the
because only
weird
Congress
thing.
can declare war. But you bomb Fordal, Natanz, and Esfahan, which now Iranian leader is like, it's on and it's not going to stop. We're not backing down. Hegseth said, Keith Hegseth, who is in charge of the military, for those of you who don't know, his name is
Department
Keith
of Homeland
Hegseth,
Security, yes.
has declared that Iran's nuclear program is obliterated.
Right.
Trump argued with that too.
Exactly.
Trump is walking around now saying, make Iran great again. Is this indicative of the fact that he is preparing to attempt a regime change in Iran? Like, you brought up Iraq before with Saddam Hussein?
Right. Exactly. So this is playing out publicly now. But again, the America First folks, people who have a concept of, I guess, military history or American history, these conflicts in the Middle East. Oh, excuse me. We're packing for God. I'm sorry. So, yes. So that's what's going on right now with these guys. Remember, you have two veterans involved, Hegseth and Tulsi. Trump is not a veteran himself, but then you have the vice president involved, who's a veteran, JD
I
Vance.
mean, didn't Trump dodge the war because he pretended to have heel spurs? Isn't that what Trump's history is?
Yes, it is. So that's why he probably has difficulty in this one area. So that's what I think.
So we're led by a coward that wants to sneak bomb attack. AOC said that bombing him was grounds for impeachment. Do you think, I mean, you brought up the Democrats' problems. I guess this is the time to chime in with it. AOC says this is grounds for impeachment. What do you believe on that?
I believe the Democrats throw the word impeachment around so much it's lost its meaning. Because remember, they impeached this man twice in the first administration. Now you have several Congress people adding AOC to it that's calling for impeachment. You have one who actually got froggy and tried to put in the paperwork, and then the DNC, the Democrats reeled them back in. So when it comes to impeachment, we can't take these people serious. And that's how I feel about that. Shocking our word.
I think that what they're doing is actually brilliant, on the other hand. They're doing what Trump does. They're putting it in the minds of the American people. They're talking about it and building up the case so that when they actually do it, it feels right. I think that what they're doing is tactical. Could be wrong.
Well, this type of pre-predictive programming on the American people is not working anymore because again, we are the media and we call out every time. And that's why, unfortunately, on the agenda, we don't have the DNC talks that's going on. They're being broke and going bankrupt. But that's true too. People on the left side have a problem in leadership and just a pinch of toxic masculinity they need for that leadership. And right now, AOC is crying impeachment. But again, people don't take it seriously because they have nothing to back it up. They don't have the numbers. On top of that, they have no game plan. They have no toxic masculinity, a little bit of leadership. So nobody's going to follow AOC. However, they are propping her up to be the next presidential nominee. So that's very interesting. But for impeachment, nobody takes that battle cry seriously anymore.
Well, you mentioned that the world leaders have had mixed reactions. Well, I mentioned they have mixed reactions. You said a bunch of people that should have been in against him because they don't really like him were actually for it. Reuters had a report on what some of these people said. I guess I should share this
Yeah.
so that's not just me. All right. Did you get a chance to look at this?
Some of it, some of the comments are interesting. Like you said, everything's being said on X. Thanks to Elon Musk for allowing his platform to have freedom of speech. Blue Sky, whatever it's called, is going down. They removed JD Vance, and in 12 minutes, they put JD Vance back on their liberal platform. That's another story.
Okay. Who
Which
is
one do you
this?
want to go to?
Israel Prime Minister, of course, he said something good. Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities, the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. Israel, obviously, for it. Iran, The United States, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, is committed a grave violation of the UN Charter, international law, and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty by attacking Iran's peaceful nuclear installations. This is a fact. The events this morning are outrageous, will have everlasting consequences. Each and every member of the UN must be alarmed over this extremely dangerous, lawless, and criminal behavior. In accordance with the UN Charter and its provisions allowing a legitimate response in self-defense, Iran reserves all options to defend its sovereignty, interests, and people. So, in other words, it's about to be on and popping. I'm not going to read all of it. This is somebody from Iran, I believe. We're not going to continue to read Iran. The French Foreign Minister. France is convinced that a lasting resolution to this issue requires a negotiated solution within the framework of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. British Prime Minister. Hold up, did I scroll too fast? Oops. Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to the international security. So the British Prime Minister, even though not cool with Trump at the present moment, is saying that this was a good move. We know what the UN is going to say. Wait, let's read it. This is a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge and a direct threat to international peace and security. Bad idea. United Arab. These guys are important because these are the guys in the region. These are the people in the Middle East. The United Arab Emirates expresses deep concern of the ongoing tensions in the region and the targeting of Iranian nuclear facilities. Well, if there's a leak, who's going to be, if there's nuclear, I'm sorry, nuclear is the wrong word. No, it's not. If there's nuclear radiation, who's going to get exposed to it? It's probably the people in the surrounding areas. And radiation lasts a little bit of time, like 1,000 years. So yeah, I can see why they might be concerned. The state of Qatar, which is also in the Middle East region, regrets the deterioration of the situation following the bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities and is following with great concern the development following the recent attacks on the sisterly Islamic Republic of Iran targeting its nuclear facilities. The Japanese Prime Minister, it is crucial that there be a quick de-escalation of this conflict. We're closely monitoring the situations there with grave concern. Being the only country in the world that's been bombed with nuclear weapons, I can see why Japan would feel a certain way about watching nuclear plants get bombed because, radiation. New Zealand. We acknowledge developments in the last 24 hours, including President Trump's announcement of Buick strikes on nuclear facilities. Ongoing military action in the Middle East is extremely worrying, and it's critical further escalation is avoided. Australia. We have been clear that Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program has been a threat to international peace and security. We note the U.S. President's statement that now is the time for peace. The scrutiny situation in the region is highly volatile. We continue to call for de-escalation, dialogue, and diplomacy. Mexico, our next door neighbor. The ministry urgently calls for diplomatic dialogue for peace between the parties involved in the Middle East conflict. In keeping it with our constitutional principles of foreign policy and our country's pacifist conviction, we reiterate our call to de-escalate tensions in the region. Venezuela condemns U.S. military aggression against Iran. Cuba, we strongly condemn the U.S. bombing in Iran. Nobody seems happy with his move except for Britain. Britain's like, good going. Everybody else is like, yo, what are you doing? You just bombed somebody. And the Middle East is like, yo, you bombed nuclear facilities of our neighbors. You just endangered all of us with radiation. While the U.S. is reporting that there's minimal radiation risk and they're monitoring it, it's coming under Trump's administration. I don't think after he said he wouldn't do anything for 2 weeks and then bombed them in something that could cause devastation to the entire region.
Okay, well, the thing is, Leo, let me ask you a question because I'm having a hard time finding this word. Where are you getting radiation? Are you saying that they assume that the nuclear sites are there and there will be radiation? Because so far I haven't seen those reports.
Where am I getting radiation from bombing nuclear plants?
Alleged nuclear plants.
That's what every single report says. They bomb nuclear plants. That's what Trump is
but
telling.
I'm just saying, for your purposes, Where is the reports of radiation? This is the media that we're questioning now because you're assuming that they're bombing. And I'm not saying disagreeing what you're saying is not factually potentially correct based on logic and reason and common sense. But the fact is, I'm pointing the finger at the media again. If that's true, what you're saying, then where's the media reporting it? Or is that just you as a, commentator, researcher, common sense person? Like, yeah, that just makes sense to say this. You see what I'm saying?
You didn't hear anything I said.
Yeah, you said
I'll
very
repeat
good.
what I said about it. Trump's people are claiming that there's minimal risk for radiation. He's saying they're monitoring it and they haven't seen radiation as a problem as of yet.
Okay.
These are the current reports as of this morning, this afternoon. And I'm saying you bomb nuclear plants.
Right. Again, so then what's the answer? Is Trump lying again, or is it true? That's my thing, because you're skeptical about it. All right,
There's
skeptical.
been no evidence as of yet.
So do you think Trump's statement is true? Or is it still a lie like always? Because
It's
if
definitely a
Tulsi
lie.
is right, let me just lay it out for everybody. If Tulsi's correct and there aren't any nuclear installations development there, and then Trump is contradicting them, say, yes, there is, they bombed the joint, and there is not any radiation leakages, does that mean Tulsi is correct and Donald Trump is lying? Or is Donald Trump telling the truth and saying, hey, there's not do much nuclear stuff over there, so don't worry about it. And they had the weapons anyway. You see the paradox we're creating?
What?
All right, again, Tulsi said there's no nuclear developments over there for weaponry, right? And Trump's like, yes, there is. Then Trump is saying, hey, there is no risk of radiation. So that means to me, either Trump is lying and there weren't any nuclear weaponry over there, like Tulsi said, and therefore there is no radiation, or Trump is downplaying it, and he was right that there are nuclear facilities there and there's no radiation. So what is it?
Wow, that's a complicated question. How do I make this simple?
Yeah. I'm just saying, Leo, make it simple
No,
because
I want to figure out how to make this simple.
I haven't seen the word radiation used.
I think the easiest way to make this simple is to share,
No,
because
shit.
sharing is caring. Oops, am I on the wrong one? Russian soldiers eat comrade. That's the
And
wrong
enough
one.
cannibalism for one night.
Yeah, that was U.S. attacks on nuclear facilities. The radiation leak threat explained. Nuclear facilities, by their very nature, store a lot of
Okay.
radioactive substances. The substances are stored in carefully designed containers, and the facilities are constructed in ways to minimize what is happening. Why is all this going on? The risk of leaks.
Because you're using a different platform called India Express, which is good though, Leo. But of course, they have a lot of ad pop-ups. Go ahead.
Again, these substances stored in carefully designed containers, and the facilities are constructed in ways to minimize the risk of leaks. An attack can disrupt the safety mechanisms. So basically, here's how it works, right? If you have, let me turn this out. I'm looking into the camera. Nobody can see me, see my big blues. If you're working with nuclear anything, the isotopes are radioactive. Isotopes is a big word. It just means nuclear, and nuclear means radiation. You cannot have nuclear without radiation. You cannot have nuclear without radiation. It's impossible. It's a derivative of the nuclear process. So if you create nuclear anything, there's going to be radiation. Now you store these isotopes, these radioactive particles or substances, you store them in a way that they're safe and the radiation doesn't escape, leak, and cause radioactive damage, kill people, cause cancer, what have you. These are what you do when you're dealing with nuclear waste. So if this nuclear waste is stored in the facility and kept in a certain way so that people won't be exposed to radiation, if you bomb the facility, you're destroying the containers that's holding the radiation in. You just let radiation out. It's impossible for it to be any other way.
Well, again, from my quick research, it says that nah, it's only internal radiation, and there's no real threat of the external
It's
radiation.
only internal radiation on a destroyed facility. What after the facility's been destroyed? What does internal mean? What does that mean?
I
I mean,
mean,
we
in
use
my
common sense here.
opinion, if you blow something up and radiation is inside, that means, in my opinion, that it's blown up on top, but internally everything crumbled on top of that radiation. Remember? So if you blow something up on the surface and the radiation is below it, that means that crater is just covering up that radiation, in my opinion. I'm not a scientist or a financial advisor.
Okay, so here's how it works, right? Radiation is in the air, it spreads. It doesn't get buried, it's in the air, it spreads.
But
So once
again,
you've destroyed the container, you've let radiation out.
well, the thing is, remember, these things are internal, but the fact remains the reports that are coming out now, you should search it on your device, are saying that the threat's not there. So I'm just going by what the report.
Yes, that is what Donald Trump's team is pushing out.
No,
What I'm
no, no.
telling you is
That's what your Indian Express was saying too. It's a potential threat, but they haven't proven it.
they haven't proven it yet, but here's the thing. We know how radiation works.
Okay.
We know how radioactive we know how radioactive isotope. Oh my God!
Isotopes,
Sometimes I get tongue tied.
oh,
Jesus, Monody.
tropes, ISIS.
Isotopes. Thank you. How radioactive isotopes. This is how isotopes work.
That's all
They
good.
contain radiation. If you
That's
get
all.
near the radiation, you get sick. You might get cancer. You might die. The stronger the
Yo,
radiation, the faster your death is.
that's all good, but the fact still remains the reports are
Couldn't say
coming up from
isotopes.
various sources that this radiation threat isn't
And
there.
my screen is
So
frozen. I can't
as
make it
a
out.
result, either Tulsi was right and this nuclear threat is not as big as it's being made out to be, or the president is right. These nuclear things were going on, but it's not as severe as they thought it would be. There's no radiation link.
Okay, so here's what happened because neither of those is none of that what you just said made any sense. I'm gonna clear
Share the
this up. I'm
screen.
gonna explain it to you. I'm gonna explain it to you because it's apparent that I need to explain it. No, I gotta explain it. No, obviously. So what Tulsi said was that the nuclear programs that are happening in Iran are not for weapons. Not that there's no nuclear program,
Okay,
that
okay.
they're not for weapons, that they're being monitored and they're not creating weapons. Nuclear power plant is not a nuclear torpedo launch missile thingy. Like, they're not weapons, they're being used for energy. You bomb nuclear energy power plants. So yeah, you're probably gonna get some radiation. Probably.
Probably, but the reports aren't saying that. So
So the radiation hasn't seeped out yet. So it's been 24 hours. Radiation doesn't have to plume out, but and then it doesn't have to be the detectable level yet. But it's impossible. It is literally impossible for there not to be a radiation leak. The question isn't if there's going to be a leak, it's how bad it's going to be.
again, I point the finger at the media not reporting and doing this kind of, investigation like you are, or theorizing about it. So that's what I put the audience, the decision making, look at the media's reports. Now, common sense, Leo's 100% correct, but from the reports, information we're getting here in America, maybe in other countries might be different, or on the ground in the Middle East could be different as well. But so far, the information I'm being provided is not saying that.
And I am in agreement with that. I have
Then
not
again, Leo has
seen.
been proven long term to be right, so I will admit that. So maybe I give Leo a lot of numbers. Give us a lot of numbers now, Leo.
I actually hope I'm wrong on this one. I mean, this is a lot of deductive reasoning where I just look at the past and what's happened with every nuclear accident that has ever happened, and it has every single time been radiation, bar none. That's what happens when there's nuclear issues. There's radiation. Nuclear means radiation.
Chernobyl,
That's
Chernobyl. Who's old enough to remember Chernobyl?
Chernobyl is not the only one. Look what
Let's see
happened in
what comes to
Japan,
mind.
man. I hope I'm wrong this time. Iran has promised everlasting consequences due to the United States bombing of these nuclear sites.
I don't disagree.
Putin claims all of Ukraine belongs to Russia. I
Beautiful.
think we
Let's do it.
mentioned that.
Yes, do it. Do it.
So what that means is he's not going to stop. Russia's going to push forward no matter what. Ukraine, if it falls completely, will be the first of many to have to fight Russia. Britain is already. Here's what Britain did. Britain did something slick. Britain has supplied them with AI weapons, right? And then Britain was like, all right, we're going to monitor how these weapons are functioning against them. Because if Russia ever decides to attack Britain, now we'll have information on how to tweak our AI so that we're more effective against Russia because we think Russia's coming. That's what Russia did. They're using Ukraine as training grounds for their AI for when Russia comes after them. That's how bad that is.
Again, has nothing to do with the United States of America, our military, our weaponry, and our funding. So
Right. Being on the brink of World War III with Russia and China
let
backing
England deal with it. You just said UK, let UK deal with it.
with
Whatever
Russia and China backing Iran and the US bombing Iran, we shouldn't worry about what Russia's doing. Got it. That's I
in
hope not.
Ukraine, yes. In Ukraine.
Well, Iran is helping support Russia against Ukraine. So it's all tied in. Iran is helping Russia against Ukraine. We're bombing Iran. We're bombing Russia's backup. We are directly in a hot war with the people backing Russia attacking Ukraine. So the US is actually helping Ukraine.
Joe Biden. Simple answer.
Woo! Trump
Trump
said
is
he's getting rid of
navigating the
FEMA.
best he can. So far, we have a decision on the right that we disagree with. So, which is good. This is healthy. We're not a cult.
Trump says he's getting rid of FEMA.
Okay.
Disaster relief will go after this hurricane season. Disaster relief decisions will go through the president's desk. What does that mean in English? That means after this season, if you have a disaster in your neighborhood, if a hurricane hits, if there's a tornado, if there's a sinkhole, only the president's cabinet will be able to make a decision if you get disaster relief. So you got to kiss the ring if you want disaster relief once FEMA's gone. How do you feel about that?
I feel great because the same thing happened in North Carolina when they didn't want to provide support to some Republican areas, if you remember that history. In addition, if you look at what's currently happening with USAID and the big scandal of the bribery charge, these agencies can be used as one big money grab in the guise of a crisis, USAID and FEMA, and be mismanaged in terms of funding, resources, and personnel. So that's the first thing. Then we got Ron DeSantis in Florida, who handles hurricanes all the time and is always prepared. The president is saying, hey, FEMA is no longer money grab. If the natural disaster like Hurricane Katrina is so severe, then I will get involved and decide what's what. Because locally, some of these liberal cities and states aren't to be trusted when it comes to these states. Because if you look at Mayor Karen Bass in California with the fire situation, and she came from Ghana, whereas I'm going to Ghana, she was a deer in the headlights when the reporters like, hey, what about the fires in LA? Why are you coming from Ghana for in the airport? They cornered her. She was like, and then she dipped. So you see,
You brought up
the president,
Florida.
huh?
Florida relies on FEMA for hurricane relief more than any state in the union.
Well,
Florida relies on FEMA.
but guess what?
Florida is actually turning blue based on this.
Actually, no, Florida's saying blue based on all the exodus from New York and beyond liberal progressive cities into that state. That racist state, mind you, because the conditions here in these liberal progressive cities and states is so horrible. So that should be pointed out. They're bringing in their bad voting habits, which Florida says, please don't do that. And so is Texas, because they're getting a lot of influence of people from California moving to Texas. So let's start right there. In addition,
Well, according to Florida, Florida is saying that the people in Florida are saying that they're ready to leave because they're not going to be. My house gets knocked down by a hurricane, and FEMA won't be able to fund us because of Trump, and they're leaving MAGA and looking blue because of, according to them, not according to MAGA, but according to the actual source, the people. They're upset about the FEMA thing, but maybe they're lying and Trump is right. Uh, I don't know how to. That's what they're saying. They're saying that, you know, denying them funding because of any reason when a natural disaster. I mean, if my roof caved in because of a hurricane and now FEMA's not going to come because I'm a blue state, I don't know. If you feel good about it, you feel good about it.
But if you want to gloss over Mayor Karen Bass, Governor Gavin Newsom, and their failures with the California wildfires, and then blame Uncle Trump because of his reforms in FEMA, then you're deflecting to the wrong thing. You're mad at the wrong person, as parents would say. You're mad at the wrong person. Why can't we talk about Mayor Karen Bass and her administration's failure with her fire chief that she fired and a lack of resources for the police and fire department? Why can't we talk about Governor Gavin Newsom, who blatantly lied to people that he was directly involved in? This is going to be a great thing. Why can't we talk about that?
Well,
Why
because
can't we
according to,
refresh people's memory about North Carolina and FEMA under the previous administration, politically motivated from not helping provide resources in Republican areas of the state of North Carolina? I think all that should be taken into context as we
I think that
look
last part
at
needs to be
FEMA.
taken, and I agree. I agree that last part needs to be taken in 100%. But
And then on
let's
top of that,
revisit the
I
wall.
got a question. I got a question. Seeing as though we're defunding FEMA, where's the statements about the Army Corps engineers? How come we're not following about those guys? Because if you remember, if the natural disaster is severe enough, well, you're a veteran. You're going to correct me, check me if you need to, which is fine. The Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA work in tandem. So if the natural disaster is so severe, they come in, do their assessment, and that kind of cleanup. So if FEMA's being defunded, whatever it is, why isn't the media reporting to us what's going on with the Army Corps of Engineers? Think about it.
Because FEMA is how the government funnels the money. And being that FEMA is being dismantled, then the money is not going to be able to be funneled to those in need.
But
Army
think
Corps of
about it, though.
Engineers is a completely separate issue.
I understand that, but think
But
about
I
it,
want to
Leo.
address the first thing you said. I want to address the first thing you said about the wildfires. Because reportedly, he turned on a spigot that the water ran and did nothing because it didn't run to where the fires were needed. Those are the reports that he did nothing and took
Oh,
credit, which sounds like Trump, so I believe. I can pull them up if you want to see
instead of
them.
blaming Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Newsom for their incompetence and poor management of their governmental systems, these people are not to be trusted with funding at all when it comes to these things.
And Trump is.
Yep, that's what the people voted for him. And on top of that,
I believe,
California actually leaning more right with their votes for Trump and adding on to the popular vote, just like New York did, showing how fed up they are. But now that these wildfires happen, we'll see what happens in the midterms.
I think the war's going to have more of an effect than the wildfires. In fact, rural areas, rural hospitals will take the biggest hit with the funding cut that comes in the big bad bill. As a matter of fact, so here's how it works, right? Here's how they'll take the hit. So the vast majority of people that actually require said Medicaid funding live in the rural areas. Far more in rural areas. In the blue states, people go and get college degrees and get jobs and all that. In rural areas, they rely on this. They rely on the government. California has the sixth largest GDP in the world, gross domestic product. And that means if they were a country, I've said this on the last 4 episodes. If they were a country, they produce more goods and products than all but five of the top countries in the world. U.S. is number one, China is number two. They're six, and they're only a state. So with that being said, they subsidize is how Trump would put it if he was talking about Canada. They subsidize red states. Red states rely on Medicaid. If the Medicaid funding is not coming through and people can't go to the hospitals because they don't have the funds to go to the hospitals close down. If people can't go to the doctor's office because the funding is not there for the Medicaid, the local doctors close down. Now the local doctors are closed down, the local hospitals are closed down. They got to travel mad far to get to the hospitals and doctors because the few people that was in the neighborhood that the doctor's office was in no longer have any kind of medical coverage. Now they got to go to hospitals who will see them even if they're not covered, and them little hospitals ain't gonna make it. You're destroying. And this is according to the Republicans, by the way. This is not Democrat. This is not bipartisan. This is the Republicans saying it. So if the Republicans are saying it about their own state, it becomes very believable, especially if they're talking against Trump, which is, they're not a cult, right? Obviously, because they're saying our constituents are going to be hurt by this. So you have the war and the big bad bill. Do you honestly believe that through these two terrible travesties, that the MAGA party will be able to shore itself up and be able to carry through to the midterms?
Yes, because like I alluded to earlier in the program, the DNC is going broke. There's no toxic masculinity at the top to show confidence in the chair of the DNC, and that's it. So Democrats got nothing.
Even Ford, who makes all their parts, who makes all their cars in America and gets 90% of their parts from are made in America, even Ford is being forced to shut down car production because of the tariff war. So what does that mean for the rest of these car companies, for all of these jobs that are supposed to be coming in, if the number one American made car company in the world is shutting down factories and production? Do you think the tariff war is going to eventually help Americans? Do you still believe that?
Yes.
That's quick and easy.
Snap calls, we say in poker. Ew.
So far, 25% of tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and 20% of tariffs on China, a 10% baseline tariff on imports in April, plus 25% tariffs on autos, and after a tit for tat, 30% on China.
China.
These tariffs across the board have led to Trump losing a lot of love. I don't know if you noticed, but in key battleground states such as Michigan, he's at -11, Nevada -12, Carolina -8, Wisconsin -13, Arizona, which was a big state for him, -12, Pennsylvania, which was a big swing state he won, -12, Georgia -6, big red state for him. His net approval rating is dropping. Even AOC can stand a chance against him now. I wouldn't put her on the card. But,
That's the way it's looking. As you can see, it's laughable because that's exactly what you're doing right now.
yeah, I wouldn't put her on the card. She's not
But
ready.
that's the way the Democrats and socialists, especially their handlers, are doing it, Leo. So you can shake your head all you want, but that's what you need to report to these beautiful people.
I do believe that we had a report earlier that you brought to the table where they said they want a white male to run against Trump.
Jasmine
So
Crockett.
if that's true, then what you're saying now, both can't be true. They can't be
Yes, it
pushing
is. Let me tell
AOC
you
and want a
why.
white male.
That's why it's in total chaos. And the vocabulary word for this episode is cannibalized. The DNC and they're eating each other because they know and they want someone like a Gavin Newsom who's polished running against Trump to take him down, the great white hope, instead of an AOC. Because so far, women running for president doesn't work from the past two, situations. And she's too
That
far
would be
left.
Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, for our viewers. So that's
Right,
that.
right.
But of course, they go to infight and say, no, we need DEI, meaning a DEI hire. We need a woman to check off that box. And that should be AOC because she's so progressive. Whereas normal common sense Democrats and the ones that know that you need the middle to win the presidency, like, no, you're crazy because in all these other swing states, they hate AOC.
I would like to know if anybody thinks that a woman could actually run this country like we had the Queen of England, and even in the past we had Queen Nefertiti. Put a one in the chat box. Let me know. Let me know what y'all think. If y'all think that a woman cannot take the helm and should not be president of the United States, please put a two in the chat box. Chime in. Let me know what y'all are thinking. And if you like what we're talking about, if you want to see more of this content, please share it with your friends, bring people in. Let's build our community. This is the critical thinking community. And I would love to see more people come in and give their critical thought process, give their opinions so that we can add it to our collective minds and help us draw more critically thought out solutions. Back to you, Dion. My apologies. Like, share, subscribe, please. So, over 696,000 workers have been laid off this year through May. That's a lot of people, man. That's over 500,000 people laid off. Do you think that might have something to do with the tariffs?
Okay, so question is this the private sector layoffs or the public sector layoffs? Because that's why I'm confused. There's a
Private
bit of
sector.
decline. Oh, well, the thing is, it may
Well,
contribute.
the public sector layoffs have been put back on. You know that, right?
The
A
what?
vast majority of them.
The
The
what?
vast majority of the public sector layoffs, people work for the government,
Right, right.
have been brought back in. Not that wasn't for you,
Sure.
obviously.
Exactly. So that's why I had to ask that question to be clear about it at the beginning. Now, is it a result of the tariffs? Oh, excuse me, guys. Is it a result of the tariffs? Potentially, but then again, you also have to take into account that there are certain laws for mandatory minimum wage and also leave time. So some of these areas that have these stringent regulations on business owners for their employees do force them to have layoffs during this climate of the tariff war. So that's the way I see it on the surface.
Jerome Powell's not lowering interest rates despite the pressure from the president who refers to him as a numbskull that he put in place. Oh, it was bad advice and Biden should have fired him, quoting President Trump. Do you think that Jerome Powell should lower interest rates? Do you support the president in believing that inflation would be curbed and that Trump knows all and Jerome Powell's a numbskull and interest rates should be lowered?
I say yes. Now, would it work? I don't know because again, economics is not my strong suit. But yes, it seems to me that this guy Jerome Powell from the previous administration is being an obstructionist vocabulary word to the president of the United States, and the media is playing up the situation. Same thing. So I believe if we could see what really goes on, if this man would just go along to get along with the president, what would happen? But right now, in my opinion, like a lot of people over here believe that he's being obstructionist and actually hurting America as a whole just to spite the president and make him look bad.
He seemed to have been able to thwart the economy tanking by using or leveraging interest rates. That's how he did it. Like, you raise interest rates and people buy less. You lower interest rates, people buy more. Why? Because if you lower interest rates, that means there's less interest. Things become cheaper. People are going to be like, I can spend a little bit more money. You raise interest rates, things become more expensive. People buy less. This is the Fed's tool to control the economy and to keep a somewhat balanced economy without overinflation, to keep inflation intact. So if inflation goes up too much, people can't afford to buy. You gotta raise the interest so less people are buying and bring down the interest rates, right? Something like that. Something like that. I might have got that backwards. Whoa. But he uses interest rates. So listening to the president might not be his tool. He might want to look at the economy and decide what to do based on the economy, especially when if he lowers interest rates based on the fact that there's inflation because of tariffs, and then Trump decides a week from now, you know what? There's not going to be no tariffs. Then the interest rate starts bumping up and down. Do you think Jerome Powell should follow all of Trump's whims and bounce the interest rate around like he bounces around tariffs?
Yes.
And why? How do you think that would affect the economy?
Again, economy is not a strong suit, so I don't know why you keep harping on me with these gotcha questions. But I just think like a
Oh,
lot
I
of
did get
things,
you.
that's like a thing. I like a lot of things. This is a politically motivated situation, just like certain circuit court judges when it comes to certain legal interpretations of the Constitution and the president's actual actions. So I think Jerome Powell is just politically motivated and not using his completely objective thinking. Also, trying to go along with the president and see what happens. I use the word obstructionist, and that's a big word.
So you think that the Fed should do what they were doing with tariffs? That's what you think, without knowing anything else. You don't have to know anything else. You're just gonna follow Trump and do what he does, which is causing the inflation that we got now. Now you want to follow that with the Fed?
Actually, the inflation we got now spills over from the previous administration. But hiring people for the federal government and mass spending and keeping the country closed due to COVID. But anyway, yes, let's just see what happens. For example, keep in mind when the tariff war
So it
was
has nothing to do with the tariffs. It's because the tariffs is them causing
yeah, I say,
inflation.
for
It's
example,
Biden.
you should look at CNBC, for example, and
You're
how
not saying that with a straight face.
CNBC, I never said much about CNBC, but CNBC actually has reports of how the market actually was doing good, or still is doing good, rather, and that Trump actually should be given some credit. So if that's the case from CNBC, just imagine if Jerome Powell would just play along.
I don't know what CNBC says. CNBC. I know what
CNBC.
it looks like when I go to the. I know what it looks like when I go to the grocery store. I know what it looks like when I want to buy something. I know that prices are up. I don't care what
Exactly why
CNBC.
Biden lost, because they did the same okie doke and pull a wool over his face. There's no such thing as inflation. The previous Secretary of Treasury, let's change the definition of inflation. That way everybody feels good about themselves. So again, this has nothing to do with President Trump until Powell plays along. No relation.
Prices are up.
Okay.
I don't care what anybody tells me the definition of inflation is. That's like, who cares what the definition of inflation is? It costs me more when I go to the store to buy the same amount of stuff. That's what I care about. That's what the average American viewers. I don't know if you're paying attention. Please, somebody tell him something. Somebody, I'm losing my mind. Prices are up. Now you say you don't do a whole lot of shopping, so you haven't noticed prices going up. Do you eat?
Yes.
Do you buy food?
No. I order out because I know how to cook.
You order out because you know how to cook?
I don't know how to cook. So those inflation prices don't affect me because I don't really buy food like that. Understand? So, for example, the restaurants and the fast food joints, their prices have remained the same. So people like me, that doesn't really affect me. But people like you who have to make breakfast, I'm sure it doesn't affect you.
Wait a minute. So prices in restaurants have remained the same in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. All right. Well, courts have blocked administration from stopping international students from entering Harvard. So Trump took another loss. He said he's going to stop international students from going into Harvard because they refused to bend to the DEI rule and they wouldn't bend the knee. What do you feel about that?
Well, again, these are checks and balances. Or some people argue guardrails against the president of the United States. It is unilaterally decision making. Then, yes, another win for the other side. And here we go. So Harvard is a private institution. The president is trying to control the purse of federal funding for higher education, and here we are. And yeah, so now the only thing that's not mentioned is legacy exams and entrances and stuff like that for access for the DEI situation. So, and remember, affirmative action is still struck down. So, the education component, not the working.
You sound almost happy that affirmative action is struck down.
I'm just thinking of facts. In actuality, Black people wasn't the number one recipient of affirmative action, even though we're programmed to think that would help us all out. Who benefited? Asians and women, just like DEI. And when they remove affirmative action for education, who was affected? The Asians.
I do believe blacks were affected as well.
The what?
And to say I do believe blacks were affected as well. To say blacks weren't affected is crazy.
I'm saying that we are not the number one beneficiary of it, which was how it was marketed. Understand? like DEI.
Later, for if
They
we
put
were
the
the
black
number
face
one, if
on
we was the
DEI.
number five, that means we still got from it. So you want to strike, you're like, we shouldn't care because we wasn't the number one. We was only number five. Who cares what number we was in? We benefited.
I care because of the marketing promotions. If we're number five, then we're not the ideal market that's benefiting. So then let the Asians and the women and everybody else that's benefiting the top four, let them be the face of it. But to put a broad brush and make it a black face issue, like, oh, those poor minority black people of color and have all black faces on it for DEI and affirmative action. We're number five. That makes no sense to me. Then say it for what it is. Say this is helping all the wonderful women do so many Asians to get so many access. Do all that kind of promotions, you know? Don't try to push it as this is a great thing for black people when it doesn't really help black people the way that you're promoting it to and not telling the world who it's actually helping. And that's the problem with all the bleachers of color and everything else they do with our culture and our historical trauma from slavery.
Well, Trump is trying to figure out why he's losing a bunch of people. He says that the problem with Fox is Jessica Tarlov, and that's why MAGA hates Fox. What? How do you feel about that? You
Well, it
watch
goes to show
mainstream media.
you, well, it goes to show you, number one, Fox News is actually one of the, I think maybe the number one major news source for the American people. And
Well, again, he says MAGA hates Fox.
I'm getting to that. The point is this, yes. So far, Fox News, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and some others, are splitting from America First and actually are able to journalistically criticize the president. Again, the people out of the cult, Trump or bust or nothing, they're the ones that probably have a problem with this. But people who look at it critically on the side say, hey, Fox News has a point. I mean, we should watch them, unlike those other platforms. Again, Leo, we are the news.
How do you feel about the fact that Gregor Garcia, whom you've said multiple times, who cares about, the courts have finally decided they're going to have a hearing to release him while he awaits trial. But Gregor Garcia is going to get. Gregor Garcia is the guy who was flown out with the fake pictures of him having gang signs on his hands. He's having a hearing to be released from prison. He's going to go home to his family. How do you feel about that?
Uh, so wait a minute. The him getting back with his family, you're saying?
Being released from prison. Not only has he come back to America, but he's going to be released from prison.
Well, good for him. Let's see how he spears the same cause and serves others. For example, like Dr. Claudine Gay from Harvard, the president that had to resign, disgraced. She's not out there fighting DEI like everybody else. She still has a $400,000 plus job doing something else. She's not a freedom fighter. Let's see if this guy hits the streets and becomes a freedom fighter for everybody else. Or goes back into his other lifestyle of trying to get some more illegals across the border, making lots of money, going back to conflicts with his wife, allegedly. Let's see what he does.
Well, those allegations don't seem to be sticking for the courts. They want to see proof. I don't believe they're going to be able to present proof. They said we shipped him out by accident. Then the local law enforcement, his wife, everybody but the administration that leads this country has said that the man did not commit the acts that he was being accused of. I have a hard time believing the things that come out of Trump's mouth. He has a little thing on the side of his neck, a little lump with a mouth. He talks out of both sides of his face.
Gemini season.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's incorrect. I do it too.
Me
I'm
too. I'm
good
doing
at
it
it, not
right
as good
now.
as Trump is. He is a businessman. He could not admit. He's so against admitting that he made a mistake or his administration made a mistake. He was willing to let a man rot in jail.
Central
Disgraceful.
Park 5. Central Park 5.
Okay, you're right. He has a continuous history of acting that way. I don't know if I'm supposed to feel better about that.
He's authentic. He's not fully blown like other people.
Alex Padilla is not named Jose.
His
I
real name is
mean,
Alejandro. Aha!
his real name is whom?
Alejandro.
What does that have to do with Jose?
Well, it has to do with the point of this. If the guy that said it, I don't have it in front of me, is a racist, now's the time to jump on him. But then again, one could argue his real name is not Alex at all. So
Well, Alejandro stated that he knew his name. He knows my name.
put some respect on his name. Fine. All right, next piece of news. Let's turn the page.
Well, I mean, that was it. I was rounding it off with that. Upset at Gregor. Ed Arturo ruled in favor of Trump while asking for a job. More grifting and more under the table deals. I mean, Kennedy's in place for the same thing. Like, yeah, I got you. Let's make a deal and just put me where I want to be so I can do what I want to do and I'll back you up. Sounds good? You know what's funny? Do you like, for the audience, y'all might enjoy this, y'all might not, but you like Daredevil, right?
I'm a comic book person that grew up in the 80s, so he's not really my favorite superhero, but go ahead.
Did you see the new Daredevil Reborn?
No.
It's actually a spin-off of the Daredevil series that was so popular in the 2010s with that spun off of the Jessica and Luke Cage and Punisher. Did you see that series?
No. I don't have a TV. I watch Star Wars or Star Trek. It was one of those two things fine. I shout out
Well,
to the free people.
there's a character that Spider-Man fought quite often. That Daredevil's main villain. His
Kingpin
name
of crime.
is
Kingpin.
Kingpin.
Wilson Fisk. Ah, I'm a geek. Is
Wilson Fisk.
this the black version? Sleep in peace, Michael Duncan.
The man that plays Wilson Fisk is actually white on this show.
Just like the comic book. Another thing I like to say on the sidebars, as an African American geek like myself, we're tired of just making characters black for the purpose of making black and a DEI. We don't like that. Just make better black characters, hire black writers, and have more black comic and fictional ownership. Asterisk.
I built my amateur career with that train of thought. I'm working on several projects doing that right now. I agree with you. But Wilson Fisk is an interesting character. If you want to know what's going to happen, I can't believe they wrote this years ago. They wrote, I believe his name is Kingpin,
The Kingpin.
as
Kingpin
if
of
they
crime.
already watched Donald Trump and it was a trope. If you want to know what Donald Trump's going to do next, watch Daredevil. I
Spoiler
swear to
alert.
you, it's like they watched the future and wrote the character. He literally plays this character instead of being the mayor of New York. He's the president of the United States. Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, is identical in actions to Donald Trump. It's sobering. And with that, I digress. I just plugged in this show. Y'all got to watch it. And you tell me, is Trump a kingpin
Kingpin.
or the kingpin?
The Kingpin of crime.
He moves like the kingpin. He moves like the kingpin in a television show. It's insane. It's insane. Like if you're watching it, you're looking and you're like, did they get this off of Trump? And then you look at when it was done, it's like, yo, you wrote this before Trump was in office? It's that serious. Anyway, he moves like a comic book villain. And I'll leave it with that.
Not just
He
a villain,
moves
a
like a
super
comic book
villain.
villain.
There's
That's
a
what I just
difference.
said. A what?
And not just a villain, a super villain. There's a difference.
Absolutely. Like they painted Puffy when he was sitting looking in his windows with the hand behind his back. Like they painted Puffy. Except for this guy is really Kingpin. Anyway, thank everybody for joining. Please join the YouTube Critical Thinking community. Subscribe. We appreciate all the support. The link to Dion, the Honorable Dion Powell, who gave you what he did at the beginning. He has. Would you like to tell him one more time before we depart?
Pride, pride. I'm so proud. I identify as a woman for Trump. Woman for Trump. Then I also spilling over Juneteenth, free the slaves. We found out in Texas, we freed the slaves. Red, black, and green. I mean, I'm Dion at NY Consultant Singular.us. That's Dion at NY Consultant.us. Hopefully, you'll retain my services or have me come on your show and spout all the beautiful knowledge, wisdom, understanding I could like to impart to you. Thanks to God. Shout out to Jesus the Christ. Gemini season, June 12th, my birthday. Going to Ghana. Ghana's toxic realm and country. Yay!
All right. Thank you for coming. This is LC signing out.